A major storm sweeps across 15% of the population of America. Is it God sent because we're not protecting Jerusalem? Some people say so. That and Recovery Monday coming up next.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
Okay, welcome. It is the 29th day of October in the Lord's year 2012. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is the Monday edition, Recovery Monday with St. Gregory's on 99.3 KTIA, powered by WebcastOneLive.com. And we're going to get into our recovery conversation here in just a minute. Joe Mintz from St. Gregory's here, Army Brad in the house, and also Bob, what's your last name again? Mike's not on. Montserrat? Mike's not. It's not working?
Not working?
There, you say it again.
Not working? Is it working?
I don't think so. We'll have to get that fixed. All right, anyway, but it's also HFT Day, okay? And does anybody know what HFT Day means? You know what HFT means? Today we are honoring Father Tattoo.
Oh my
Why?
goodness.
So I got my arm tattooed. See, Father? Just like you. It's Honor Father Tattoo Day. HFT.
That's pretty sweet.
And it
Yeah.
didn't even hurt, did it?
It was.
I like how it went right over your Rolex.
Yeah. Well, what we did is we put the yeah, that was bad. Okay, there, it's better now. There. That's what it is. So it's Honor Father Tattoo Day, and so everybody else got their skin on, got their tats showing. There's no tats in the room.
I just
Mine's
said my
not even
arms-
appropriate to show on the radio, Max.
Really?
Let's see. Put it up, man.
Yeah, mine's better than yours. Yours is kind of washed out and bland. Yeah. All right. Let's talk for a minute about this storm. And I don't want to add to the hype. I really don't. Because there's always hype behind news coverage. But here's what I'm hearing, and tell me if you guys have heard this, confirm it, whatever. First of all, this storm surge was supposed to hit about midnight to 2 a.m. At 1:30, the National Weather Service updated their information saying that Sandy had not only turned exactly the place they didn't want her to, but it's picking up speed. And it is now expected to hit Boston, New York Harbor, and that by 6 o'clock this evening. They are saying that there is going to be, this was from a guy from the Weather Channel, that there's going to be 4-foot storm surges.
I heard it was even higher than that.
And Megyn Kelly really had a hard time, bless her heart, making a big deal about this because she didn't want to cause alarm. But the guy on the Weather Channel, some dorky guy that's about 5'6", and the reason I know that because she said, well, with an 11-foot surge into Manhattan, that'll put Manhattan underwater. And he said, well, I'm 5'6". Imagine what 11 foot of water would do over
11
me.
foot.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. 11-foot storm surge.
Yeah, and
Wow.
and Manhattan is at sea level. So this could be a big deal.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, they've shut down the subways. They've shut down Wall Street.
Subways would flood.
Yeah, well, they would flood. Mm-hmm. My parents live 6 miles from the coast in Connecticut. And I told them they should be evacuating, but Dad's not going anywhere. But they're not evacuating that area. And I do also have to give kudos. Did anybody see Obama's press conference? He was really good.
No, I did not.
Yeah, he just basically came on and said, if somebody tells you to leave, you leave, because you are putting other first responders in the way if they have to worry about you. And he was asked a question about the election, and he said, I'm not going to answer any questions about the election. Right now we've got a natural disaster. So he got 5 stars for that one.
I did see that the bounty sank.
Yeah, the bounty sank.
I guess it didn't sink, but everything but the masts are underwater.
Yeah.
So, and there's 2 people that were missing.
12
Already?
people.
Already?
Yeah.
Yep. 12. Well, they were out off the coast of Rhode Island and trying to get back. And what they had done is they had actually turned north to try to come back in before the storm, but the storm is so powerful, but it sank the bounty. 12 people were rescued by the Coast Guard, but 2 people are still lost.
Mac, I've been out a little bit here, and I know, and that is nice to hear that he's not taking any election questions. But here in the Midwest, I know that there's the McCoy Coates campaign.
Yes.
And has there been any movement on that? I know last time it looked like you were like 1, possibly 2 votes. How's that gone?
Let me check here. The latest polling has Romney 57, Obama 39, and McCoy Coates has 3.
Hey,
3%.
Hey,
That's
you
movement.
know that's a skewed poll, because with your self-admittedly just great handling of this disaster, he's got to have gone up a point or 2, Mac.
No,
No, not at all.
not at all.
Okay.
And I did hear this from a informed source that I got 2 votes for Pat Ward's legislative district, because she passed away. All right, and so they're going to, I think December 11th, I think is the date they're going to have that run. But the things were already printed, and so I do know that 2 people, CJ and Mac, wrote in J. Michael McCoy.
Yeah.
So I could be president and state legislator at the same time.
I think you have to resign from one of the seats.
Really? I can't do both?
No, you got to pick one.
we'll see which one comes in first, and just take that.
I think I'd take state legislature.
Yeah.
Then I wouldn't have to leave home,
That's right. You don't like to leave.
Yeah, I don't like to sleep in other. The Abraham Lincoln bedroom is not something I'm interested in at all.
All right. Well.
So, but thank you, and don't forget to vote.
Yeah.
And I want you to vote your conscience, Romney. But if you can't vote for your conscience and who's right, Romney, then you can write me in.
Looks like I may be writing you in.
Oh no!
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people writing Mac in. Don't feel bad.
Tom is so confident that he has been watching Joe Biden YouTubes because he wants to be just like him when he grows down. Can you
What
see
was that movie, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button?
Yeah, I love that. Couldn't you see Tom Coates just going nuts off on somebody?
Oh, yeah.
Gonna put you in shackles. Cut those credit cards. Gonna put you in chains. Quit that incentive spending. All right.
Only if he turns into a superhero during debates. I mean, that would be pretty sweet.
He can do that.
I know. I've seen the commercial. I think
By
I
the
got
way,
it loaded in the queue.
Thursday, I think it's Thursday. Let me check. Yeah, Thursday is going to be a great show right here on The View from a Pew. Doug Gross is going to be our guest, former former state of Iowa chief of staff for the early Branstad administration, also a gubernatorial candidate himself at one time, probably the guy in the know for Iowa politics. Doug Gross will be here with Tom Coates on Thursday. All right, and did I mention that today is Honor Father Tattoo Day, HFT Day, and I went to the tattooist over the weekend, and about 20 minutes later, I came out with this. And I hope you like it. It's what does it have on it?
They got so fast. I mean, mine took like 48 hours.
Well, I've got better skin.
Yeah.
Oh, usually older skin's better.
Yeah. Little rawhide there, and they just whacked on some color, and there I am.
Yeah, there we
And
go.
the cool thing is that when I get old, my tattoos won't look like crap like yours will.
When I'm old like you, I won't care.
All right. Let's talk about something important for a minute. Not that the storm is not important, because it is. I think one more thing on that. There was an interesting article that I wrote that said, is there a connection between natural disasters and harming Israel? And there are some folks out there that will give you time in history where we as a country were not supporting Israel in the way a biblical person would tell you that we need to support Israel, and there were natural disasters that happened within the United States. And I mean, it's not just one. There's like over the course of 60 years. And one of them was when George Bush opened the Madrid conference, and he was asking Israel to maybe give up some of their land. There was 100-foot waves formed at sea, pounding the New England coast, and also caused heavy damage to President Bush's home in Kennebunkport, Maine. Now, perhaps it's a coincidence. You know what I say. Coincidence is God's way of revealing himself. So we'll find out a lot more. 24 hours from now, the world's going to be a little different in the United States of America. Okay, Joe Meitz is in. He's a recovery and intervention specialist. By the way, do you watch intervention on TV?
Periodically, yeah.
Is there any truth in that show? I mean, you know, because I talk to a doctor, and I say, is there any truth in doctor shows? No. Talk to a lawyer. Any truth in lawyer shows? No. Talk to a cop. Any truth in cops? No.
Yeah, but you also have to remember, I mean, for every intervention that they show on the air, there's two things you have to understand. First of all, there was 15 to 20 of them that weren't airworthy, at least.
Really?
They're usually just not that entertaining.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's just usually a lot cleaner than that.
Boy, they find some crazy people.
Well, you know, they find people that are struggling.
Yeah.
And that's
you're right.
the thing I don't like about it. I'm not big on celebrity rehab and intervention. In fact, as an interventionist, that show was extremely detrimental to the field, because there were so many people that would watch the show once or twice
and think they know how to
go in
do
guns
it.
blazing. Well, they didn't see any family training beforehand. They didn't really understand the concepts of what was happening. You know, it's I'm not a huge fan of it.
Okay. So it's purely Hollywood.
Well, that's the thing. It's not Hollywood. These things are actually happening, but you're only seeing the TV-worthy or Hollywood-worthy parts of what happens there, and that's a disservice.
Well, and I think a lot less of Dr. Drew's celebrity, because those people are all there to, show off.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's entertainment, actually.
Yeah.
If it's going to be on TV and they call it reality, it isn't really reality.
Well, but like Cops are.
Well, that particular show?
Yeah, and I think one of my new favorite shows.
Cops is also entertainment. I mean, I have never been so more entertained in my life than we were on the Strip in Vegas, and we saw it being filmed. And I walked by, and you can I'm waiting for the episode because you can hear me singing, bad boys, what you gonna do?
I can't believe they didn't bust this guy.
Yeah, really.
I didn't do anything wrong.
It was Las Vegas, too, so that was pretty tame.
But one of my new favorite shows, this is just horrible to say, this just proves I'm white trash from Nebraska. I love those new, where their cars get repossessed.
Yeah.
And the really big, large, incredibly large woman that looks like she has a tackle box.
That's terrible.
Connected to her face, and then her boyfriend. Well, she's got hooks and chains and everything in there. But those are great. I love those. All right, so anyway.
You want to see my hypocrisy? I hate facial piercings. I think they're the most disgusting thing ever.
Good. So I'll never have to worry you're going to come in with a diamond in your nose.
For this guy. Nope.
Okay, good.
There you go. See, I'm a hypocrite too.
All right. All right. So back to recovery, and we're going to take our first break. And by the way, our phone lines are always open. And if you're local, it's 244-0077. If you're anywhere in the continental United States, just put 1-855 before that, 244-0077, 1-855-244-0077. Write that number down someplace. Put it in your address book or in your phone or just where you write down numbers. If you come to my kitchen and open one of my cupboard drawers, there's all numbers taped there. Today, maybe you don't want to call in, but one day, maybe you're moved to call in, and I don't want you to not do it because you're not aware of the numbers. So those phone lines are open if you've got a situation going on with a family member or a friend that you'd like to ask. Joe Meitz, who's an expert at recovery and intervention, will do all we can to help you. All right, St. Gregory's brings you this hour. We'll be back next live, talking about enabling and emotional abuse. It's next live on KTIA Iowa, powered by WebcastOneLive.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
The only way we come to know the Saviorship of Jesus Christ is by bowing and acknowledging that He is Lord and King over all the earth.
Jesus Christ died on a cross, paid the penalty for our sin, and by repenting of our sin and accepting Him by faith, what He did for us, we are forgiven.
Salvation is not a combination of faith and works. Salvation is by faith alone in God.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Have you ever been told you're not a good enough Christian? Well, we have too. Join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. Now here's your host, president of the Not a Good Enough Christian Club, J. Michael McCoy.
Itchy finger producer. 321 on the 29th day of October in the Lord's year 2012, a day that may just go down in infamy. A major storm approaching the east coast of the United States, and you know, this thing took a turn at the worst time it could have turned, and it's picking up speed. They're talking about 11-foot surges in Manhattan. Now, I don't know, I'm not a big guy on geography, but doesn't that put Manhattan underwater? 11 feet of water?
It should. It definitely.
Some bad stuff going on here. All right, Joe Mines is with us from St. Gregory's Retreat Center. And by the way, if you don't know, what is it, stgregory'sretreat.com?
It's stgregoryctr.com.
Just Google St. Gregory's.
Google St. Gregory Retreat Center. You'll find it that way.
They have a separate facility for men and women, and it's like can I say it's kind of like a little farm?
It's a retreat center.
Yeah, it's not a hospital with beds and people locked in that have straight jackets on, screaming and yelling. It's not at all. Jack Nicholson wouldn't be comfortable at St. Gregory's because it's comfortable. But if you or a loved one or someone you know is at the end, and they've got a choice, they're either going to die or they're going to get well. St. Gregory's is a wonderful choice to get well. And if you need more information, call them. And if you ever want to talk about it, call me. I've been to both places. I dressed up like a girl to get in the one. I was hot. But no, I didn't. But anyway, St. Gregory's is the people that bring you this hour, and they do it because they want to help people, and it is a Christ-based program. Okay, if you're an atheist, you're welcome there, but you're going to believe in Jesus by the time you get out. I mean, if they have to no. But you'll find Christ in the center of this thing. All right. Enabling. Terrible word. Because most of the time, it's done in love, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like somebody really wants somebody to die or be drunk all the time. They're trying to help them. I saw on an intervention the other day on TV that every day this mom gets up and goes and takes this kid a 2-liter thing of vodka.
Yeah.
And she didn't understand why she was part of the problem.
Well, I mean, it's done out of love. It's usually done out of fear for exactly that. It's very difficult to differentiate that point of, okay, is this something that I'm helping, or is this something that I'm just trying to keep this guy alive? What happens if I don't enable? Then what? Is he going to die? Will it be my fault if he dies?
Right.
All of those questions, that's when those really come and get real, is when the rubber meets the road and you really start talking about that notion of, well, what does it even look like to reverse course here?
Yeah, and I mean, I come from this world, and even sometimes I see these people enabling, and I think they're nuts.
Yeah.
And then I remember what it's like.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because in a lot of the 12-step program world, with St. Gregory's is not. They're one of the reasons Joe and I make a good pair on here, because we really go about recovery, not 180 degrees different, but certainly different enough. But this really surprised me when I got to the recovery program. The 12-step program is, I somehow had this idea that we'd be sitting around with drunks all day and trying to keep them sober, and if they couldn't keep sober, we'd take care of them. No, you're drunk. There's nobody in the 12-step program around you.
Yep.
It's just not. First of all, it endangers that person's sobriety.
Yep.
And the second thing is, you can't do anything for somebody when they're drunk or high or stoned all the time. And that really surprised me. I just had this idea that, but it works this way. I don't think it would work the other way.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstance. I mean, it really, by circumstance, I mean, at what point are we talking about? Is it someone who's been attempting recovery for a while, and every time they go and get drunk or use drugs, everybody's coming to their side and, oh my gosh, let me help you, something like that. Now we are talking about something that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But then at the other point of view where somebody really hasn't attempted recovery, they're not actively engaged in any recovery program or attempt, that's when it is pretty important to really make sure that there's intercessors in that environment. There's people around who are actively trying to work to change the dynamic of their environment.
And they're not enablers.
No. There's a very big difference between an enabler and an intercessor.
And the difference is?
The difference is one helps, one hurts.
Okay.
So by enabling, enabling really does get a bad rap, because there are cases where it's, I know this. We talk to people on the phone every day that say, look, we're coming in. We can't possibly get there for a week. I'm drinking a fifth of vodka a day, or a fifth of whiskey, or whatever it is, or I'm on heroin, or benzodiazepines, or whatever the case. What should I do? Should I try to stop? Well, the answer is no. In those cases, it really is. You got to stay safe while you can get in.
Yeah,
It's
right.
also the same thing. A lot of parents will go and they just can't understand why someone will stop, and they'll go into their kid's room or their spouse or whomever it is, and they'll say, "Why aren't you stopping? You need to stop today." And then the next day they come back and they still haven't stopped, and it's another big blowout. Well, nothing changes until someone has a way to change it.
Right.
There has to be a choice. It is someone's choice, but without a real choice on the table, they're not going to just stop.
Yeah, and please understand something for real. And I'm going to say this, Joe, this shouldn't come out of Joe's mouth. This should come out of mine. Treatment centers are for real. Okay, they are not amusement parks. They are not places where owners make buckets and buckets of money because they bring the drunks and the drug addicts in and they help them to get better. This isn't a gimmick. This isn't a sham. Recovery centers are real. If you want to find compassionate people, forget the churches. Go to a recovery center and look at the staff. You want to find compassionate people, don't go to a daycare. Go to a recovery center. Go to St. Gregory's. Go to Powell. Go someplace where the staff is passionate about helping people. That's where you'll find compassion.
Yep, and that's why I say, I mean, intervention, they show some of the craziest things on there, but those circumstances aren't typically different. They really aren't that far-fetched. I mean, that's what life looks like when you're a lost soul. When you're struggling that bad, that's what life is. Whether it's on drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, that's what it looks like when you're really off track with who you were created to be.
All right, let's talk about enabling for a second. Joe Mites from St. Gregory's is in the house. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, and Army Brad. And today is HFT Day, Honor Father Tattoo. So I sent the memo out for everybody to get tagged this weekend, but nobody got tats but me.
That's correct. I didn't get the memo.
Oh, yeah, right. Stapled it to your door like Martin Luther. This was
Martin Luther used nails. Get the Reformation.
Reformation.
Right.
This was Reformation Sunday. I nailed it to your door, buddy. All right. You know what year it was? Reformation?
Was it 1534?
15-something.
Yeah, 15-something. Okay, good job. Let's bust this down into some simpleness. I'm an enabler. Okay, I don't care if it's my wife, it's my kid, it's my neighbor, whatever it is. I buy them booze. Am I enabling them?
Yep.
I pay for their car payment or their cell phone payment.
You bet.
I let them live in my house.
You bet.
See, that gets real harsh for some parents.
Sure does. However,
15, 17.
Okay.
I mean, it really goes back to it. They're not going to just stop. And I don't recommend kicking somebody out of their house. Or if they're drinking a bunch every day, don't stop buying them alcohol until they have a real choice.
Right.
It has to be a real choice.
I found that was interesting. A friend of mine went into rehab a few months ago, and from the time that the commitment was made, there was 4 days until the bed, the quote-unquote bed, would be ready, and they wanted her to keep drinking a little.
Yeah.
And they gave her like an ounce every couple of hours, and that was a doctor's order.
Yeah.
Because
you'll go into withdrawals, and that can be extremely dangerous. Then you're at risk of seizure, all kinds of things. And on top of that, even some of those drugs that you're not at risk physically, typically what happens, those guys that try to stop using in between the day they decide to stop and actually go to treatment, you get to about that last day or two, and if they could stop on their own, they would. But the problem is there's other issues that need to be dealt with in the way. So they get about a day or two out, then all the anxiety starts creeping in, and they don't have that support structure of using. They're going to go out for the biggest last hurrah you ever saw.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the most dangerous things that we see. That is the most dangerous point of any point, the week before and the week after admission into a treatment program.
Hold on, the week before admission,
yes,
and then the week after they get out,
yes,
or their first week in?
The week after they get out.
Okay, all right.
And the reason is because, well, two things. First of all, for us personally, we're undergoing. So we're reevaluating our quality improvement measures and safety standards and all of those things. We revisit those each year as part of our accreditations. And that's one of the biggest things that we in the admissions department have identified as one of the most cautious periods, is that point between bed reservation and admission. Because, again, and we talk about this every week, it's not about, well, I'm not going to use drugs or alcohol anymore. It's, I'm going to confront my life.
Yeah.
And I'm already convinced that I'm bad at it.
Yeah.
That's why I need help.
Yeah.
And if you start tapering off the one thing that you have that keeps you okay, and you're going to try and deal with all of those feelings at that point, that's a dangerous mix.
Yeah.
And then the week after, frankly, especially when we're talking about opiates, opiates are the most dangerous that first week after treatment. Treatment helps an awful lot of people, but it's still something you have to decide to continue with,
right.
This recovery notion. If you're on opiates, let's say you're taking, 3 or 4 Oxycontins a day.
Okay.
You come into rehab, you've built up a tolerance, you're able to handle that. You come into rehab for a couple of months, your body's not used to that anymore. And a lot of times people don't go back out and start if they're going to relapse with 1 Oxycontin. They go back and take 4 again. And that's when we see the overdose. That's a very dangerous
Now,
time.
Joe, when you're talking about the week after, I guess my question is, if you're going back to the same environment that you came from, is it that familiarity with when you were there, you associated that with doing this? Is it a psychological thing? I mean, is it a good thing to go back to where you were, or is it better to go to another place?
The answer is yes and. Basically, there's a huge misconception that you should never go back to your home environment. It depends on what that home environment was. If you had a support structure there, yes, go back to your home environment. And the reason is because if you go somewhere else, those same guys that you were hanging out with at home, they're in every other town.
Yeah.
You'll find them.
Right.
If you can't confront them there with a support structure, you're not going to confront them somewhere without one.
Okay, and in the support structure, is it important for those people that surround this person, the ones that love that person, is it important for them to be trained on how to support?
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
it really isn't. It is important to dispel some myths and, take care of some of those things. They'll do no harm. But there's definitely, it comes to a point where, look, let's start having real life expectations on what does it look like to be a part of this family, and then expect people to adhere to them.
Okay, Joe Mides from St. Gregory's is in the house. It's Recovery Monday. We're talking about maybe you, maybe somebody you love. No, not the addict. Not the alcoholic. I'm talking about the enabler. It's next, live here on The View.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Ever feel like there's more to life? God offers more. Chat now with an online coach at groundwire.net.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
if you sit in the back pew or the front pew. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 3:38, 22 before the top, Salem Radio Network News, and then True Blue, hosted by the incredible Pastor Michael Mudloff, today on KTIA. Updated from the National Weather Service, they had predicted that the storm surge would hit the primary populated area of the East Coast, New York, Boston, in that area, somewhere around 3 o'clock in the morning. It's been updated that it'll hit now around 6 to 7 o'clock tonight. This world's going to be different 24 hours from now. I hate to say that, but it is. And there's a lot of bloggers out there that are trying to compare natural disasters with how America is treating Israel. And I don't know if it's phooey or not. I don't underestimate God for 1 minute, and I don't underestimate his wrath. I mean, I believe in the Old Testament, so I don't know why all of a sudden, Jesus comes and so God stops dinking around down here. But he said his people, the Israelites, he will protect that land forever and a day. And last time I looked, we were still within forever. And right now, this country is not supporting that land and those people the way most people with a biblical worldview would tell you they should. Now, I don't want you to see, I don't have tinfoil on my head, and I know there may be some people that think that. But never, I'm not going to underestimate the power of God. Okay, I don't know what, you go to Hope Ankeny, so did Raines do the sermon on greater than? No? Okay.
No, we're
Mac, though, I mean, this kind of view, and I'm not saying it's not right, I'm just saying it kind of depends on a certain eschatology, which is an end times kind of thing. So like a post-mill or an on-mill guy like myself wouldn't necessarily think that's the case, because those prophecies that you're alluding to could have happened in the first century church. So there is even some arguments that are, it's an interesting argument.
Well, I'm not talking about end times, though. I'm sorry. Maybe I misspoke. I'm just talking about God gets upset with his people because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And so, wham, we've got 12-foot water surges hitting 50 million people.
I think that's true. But I don't know necessarily with the Israel tie-in there. It could just be, he's mad at America. It could just be a natural disaster for whatever reason that brings glory to him. Who knows? But I was just saying the Israel thing ties into an eschatology position. So that may be why some people don't understand that.
What we did in the sermon yesterday was the greater than sign, like this, and you put God over here, and God is greater than everything. So I don't know why anybody would estimate for 1 minute that God wouldn't get mad at his people and do something. I don't know. Maybe that's why I fear God. All right. Joe Mites is in the house with St. Gregory's, and we're talking about enabling. And this is tough to listen to. If you don't want your blank is spouse, brother, sister, mother, son, daughter, neighbor, to smoke, don't buy him a pack of cigarettes on the way home. Now, the problem is most addicts, whatever it is, they're mean people when they don't get their way. I mean, they are manipulative, bullying people.
Yep.
So what do you do about that? I mean, I told one guy once that it was in this case, it was his wife. When your wife is that demanding and manipulative and scares you that much, then she needs to go to treatment.
Yep.
That's the moment in which that person's addiction is affecting everybody else's life.
Yep. To me, it always comes back full circle to what are we really talking about here? And it's always, are you living the life that you were created to live? And that's clearly not the case so often when we're talking about addictions, especially people on the phones will call in and say, well, my gosh, I found a crack pipe and a heroin needle, but he tells me he's only using once every couple of weeks. And we drug tested him and he came up clean. Well, what else is going on? How's work going? How's school going? How's his social life?
Really?
None of those are going at all. And it's like, what do you want? What does the point B that you're hoping for really look like? And that's the biggest issue is we're not talking about drugs and alcohol for the most part. We're talking about your life.
Yeah.
What does it look like to truly reevaluate your value structure. What does it look like for you to actually confront the lies that you understand about yourself? And I'm going to say it again, most of the time, in fact, every single time, I've never seen a circumstance where this wasn't the case, but people were absolutely 100% wrong about who they thought that they were.
Yeah.
So
addicts and alcoholics are also liars.
Right. And when that's the case, when you're entirely wrong about every gift that you have, when you don't see that you've been given gifts, when you don't see that you have this awesomely true connection with your Creator, then you're going to be pretty ugly. And when you believe that you're just one of those people that's never going to be okay or be happy or certainly be worthy or qualified for anything, you're going to back people off as soon as you can.
Yeah.
And that's why also, the enabling comes from fear. And it's not just, is he going to die? But it's also like, I'm not confronting that guy.
Right.
I mean, every time I do, it's a mess. We'll certainly tell people, look, if you have any doubts that when you go and really bring this up with some intensity again, that you're going to have a positive outcome, use a professional.
Yeah, right.
It's just not as scary as it has to be. And there are very few people that really have, first of all, the understanding of really what's going on without the emotional reactivity that comes into play. Most parents are just positive that their kid hates them. Same thing with spouses. They don't think that there's any love there. They think, no, they hate me.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not able to see pragmatically through that no, that's not the case, this is really what's going on, use a professional.
Now, how do you find those professionals? I mean, I don't think you look it up in the Funk and Wagnall or the Yellow Pages and under interventionist, do you?
No, I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
We've got a list of several companies that we work with nationwide.
Okay, so call St. Gregory's.
Yeah.
And they'll turn you on to somebody you can trust.
Yeah, and that's really the thing. Different intervention companies have different focuses, which really come down to which matches up with your circumstances best. And, we can certainly offer a lot of guidance with that. But, it just comes down to it. Look, it's going to take a lot of fortitude to really confront this and get a positive outcome. It's not an easy thing. Sometimes it is, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times it's just not an easy thing to gear up to and actually have that conversation. Let a professional help you.
Well, and you've shared with me that you've had to go on in and fix messed up interventions because somebody, like me probably, who thinks I could know how to do that, which after meeting you, I know I couldn't. But I'll tell you what, before I met you, I thought I could probably be I could be an interventionist. I could do this.
Actually, I think you probably could. The interventionist, and in fact, it's interesting you say that. The most difficult intervention that I've ever had to go in and clean up, so to speak, was after they had one of the guys from the show on about a week before that.
Oh.
And that was the biggest mess in that family that I think I'd ever seen, because it was the most poorly conducted intervention I've ever seen.
Wow.
And it was all about... say this, say that, say this, and checking boxes off of a clipboard. And nobody ever really thought to come at this from a point of love and really looking at it from the perspective of, look, I love you. I want to help you. How do we help you do that?
Yeah, you almost have to get 30,000 feet above them.
You really do.
You really got to look at the big picture.
That's the whole point. And it's really difficult to do that when you're in the middle of it. And that's why I say, if you've got real doubts, if you don't think you're really going to be able to confront this on your own, don't.
Yeah,
People
and
can help you with that.
The other sad thing, and there's no fault here at all, but so many times, at least my generation still believes this. I don't know if yours does, but my generation still believes that if your doctor says the sky is yellow, it's yellow.
Yeah.
The doctor is the family, it's the family friend, Dr. Marcus Welby, MD. But most doctors are certainly not equipped to handle, well, I think I'm drinking too much. Well, stop it. That's what they'll tell you.
Yeah. They can give you some meds for it, but
let me get you some Antabuse.
Right, but you're right. I mean, and again, that's why I say I think you probably would be better than most of the interventionists that are out there. And intervention as a field is starting to clean up its act a lot.
Good.
For a long time there, anybody that wanted to could hang a shingle and say, I'm an interventionist. And now that's really coming under certifications a lot more. There's insurance standards, and there's a lot of safety that's come into play there.
So are you an enabler? Have you heard anything today that makes sense to you? We'll come back and kind of wrap this up and put a bow on it. Your phone lines are open at 1-855-244-0077. Love to hear from you right here on The View from a Pew Recovery Monday with St. Gregory's and Joe Mintz on KTIA.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Come on now, let's reason together. The phone lines are open, and it's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 10 before the top, Salem Radio Network News at the top, and then True Blue, hosted by Michael Mudloff. And yes, today is Honor Father Tattoo Day, so I went and got a tat over the weekend. And they just gave me some lotion that they said I can rub on this tonight, and it'll just kind of flake off by tomorrow.
Hey, this works well, because remember how I have that shirt that says I want a tattooed president?
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. Speaking of that, we've had some fun with a McCoy and Coates presidential campaign. And this all came about because Father Tattoo refuses to vote for Mitt Romney or Obama. And I said, well, for heaven's sakes, then write me in. We'll just have some fun with it. So he's created all these commercials and campaigns. And Joe, I know you haven't seen this one. We have to deal with flip-floppers a lot in politics, and everybody's accused of it. Obama calls it evolving.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, it's changing your mind and your position on something.
What is Romney calling it?
I think it's just maturity and growth. You and I, we're going to debate, aren't we?
We might.
All right. So anyway, here's the flip-flopping commercial for McCoy and Coates.
Both Mitt Romney and President Barack Obama have flip-flopped on almost every major issue. J. Michael McCoy doesn't even like flip-flops. In fact, he says they're garbage. Vote J. Michael McCoy and Tom Coates November 6th. And remember to vote early and vote often.
I'm J. Michael McCoy, and I'm running for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Americans who want better choices and the I'm not voting for any of these clowns super PAC.
Gotta have some fun. Gotta have some fun. All right. Joe Meitz is here from St. Gregory's, and we've been talking about recovery. And I got good news and I got bad news. The good news is that you, from the distance, whether you're the parent, the sibling, the spouse, the friend, the neighbor, the coworker, the good news is you can have something to do with helping people find recovery. The bad news is you'll probably do it wrong. It's not your fault. You're not trained in this. Off camera and off microphone, Bob and Joe were just talking about what it takes for certification, and you said it starts with a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
in some type of
the social sciences.
Yeah, and then there's certification and classes. I mean, so don't think for one moment by you just loving somebody enough or getting mad at them enough that they're going to run to St. Gregory's and say, I surrender. The good news is there's places like St. Gregory's around. So if someone needed an intervention or they wanted to learn about an intervention, they could just
they can
call you
us
guys. Tell us the process on that.
You bet. You know, I mean, that's always the first thing. If you've got questions on what to do about any of this stuff, call our staff, our counselors. They're at 888-778-5833. But they can walk you through the whole thing. I mean, it always goes back to when you're sitting in the middle of this. I mean, look, I've done interventions for an interventionist before.
Wow.
Where it was his own son. When you're in the middle of it, it's a different story. It's always easy to look at someone else's circumstance and say, well, clearly you need to do A, B, and C. But when you're in the middle of it, you don't see those things. You know, the implications seem bigger and more scary. Let someone come in and help you. But we can certainly walk through any of those steps that need to be taken.
Okay, where did the interventionist that you did his son, where did his wisdom come from? Because that's pretty insightful. That the interventionist himself realized he couldn't do his own son.
Well, I mean, he was a professional. He was just a smart guy and knew, you know, and he'd done enough of these things to know what it is. You know, frankly, to be honest with you, during an intervention, the actual potential client isn't usually the problem. A lot of times it's family members that make it really, really tough.
Absolutely.
And I get that. And that's what they're trained in, is how do you really help the family as a family structure change dynamics.
Now, they're always talking on the show intervention. I hate to bring this up, but it's what most people know.
No, it's important to.
That they then go to family counseling, and they go to family treatment. That's a big deal.
Sometimes.
Okay. When is it not a big deal?
More often than not, you'd think, actually.
It's more often not a big deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason is, well, and I should qualify this, it really depends on the therapist. One of the big jokes for people that are actually in recovery a lot of time is how much they love Family Day, because it's a great chance to have your family in, blame them for all your problems, and have a therapist agree with you. And that's unfortunately usually what happens. Now, once someone's sobriety is less of an issue, once we can tackle the actual addiction, now we've got a circumstance where family therapy is more appropriate. But I am not a believer in family therapy throughout the rehabilitation process. And the reason is, ideas have consequences, first of all. Therapies have consequences. And what I mean by that is, throughout this process of really challenging the beliefs about your life that you have, it's really important to take a real responsible perspective on what can I do differently. If my family's in shambles, what do I have to own there? What does it look like if my family is going to be a horrible support structure for me? What happens if I go home and my family's running around with their hair on fire, swilling vodka? Well, now my recovery is back on me.
Yeah.
That's what we're there to make sure we're really stabilizing. What happens if you don't have that ideal support structure? You can't rely on someone else to prop up your sobriety. You've got to be able to have the tools and the confidence and the usage of those tools to do this if need be. So that's where we're starting as a rehabilitation facility, is fundamentally, what does it look like for you to own the things that you can own? How can you change your behaviors to have a better outcome? And maybe sometimes, you know, and I hate to say it doesn't happen very often, sometimes that's disconnecting. But we really do need to make sure that that person is our primary focus. After that, when they've learned that they can take some of that ownership, now they're appropriate for a family counseling. But that's not for the actual sobriety stabilization process.
And I think it's really interesting what you said earlier. The first week out of treatment is equally as difficult as the last week before they go.
Right.
The expectations have got to be just unbelievable at that time.
Yep.
All right, Joe Meintz is in, as Mondays are. It's Recovery Monday with St. Gregory's. If you've got questions, maybe you don't want to call. Maybe you don't want your voice heard. Maybe you just need some questions answered, and you don't want to call St. Gregory's. Email me. Facebook me. I promise. You understand what that word means? I know what the word promise means. I don't use the word promise lightly. I promise you'll stay anonymous. I mean, that's all I can give you is my word. Maybe you're the one in the middle of a problem. I promise you'll stay anonymous. Just reach out. Help is around the corner. And remember, with St. Gregory's and so many other programs, they're Christ-based. They're Christ-centered. If that person who is seeking or has needed treatment isn't Christ-centered, that's okay. We'll be loving and we'll be gentle. We'll see you tomorrow, and our guest tomorrow, Pastor Ron Callum, and we'll see what God brings us on the East Coast with this thing called Sandy. And as always, don't forget to pray. Good night.